And Tim, I was going to ask you, for people that don't know, you've alluded to this earlier in the conversation. You've been sort of a member of the Junkyard family, at least on the sidelines for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And before that, you talked about you cycled in and out of the system. You were in a band called, is it Broken Glass? Is that right?
Yeah. Broken
Okay.
Glass. Yeah.
So Broken Glass, and you brought the song Tried and True to Junkyard. And before Old Habits Die Hard was released, I was privy to some of the bootleg versions of some of the songs that ended up on Old Habits Die Hard. And when I first heard Tried and True, I was like, oh my God, that's a great song. That's amazing. And I didn't know that the origins came from you and Broken Glass.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, where was Broken Glass in the scene? What time frame? Where were you compared to, say, like Junkyard and Faster Pussycat, LA Guns, those types of bands? Give us a little background.
Yeah, I got in LA in the fall of '86, and I think Chris and David were some of the first people I met, honestly.
Wow.
I was from DC originally, and so maybe we reached out to Chris because of our punk leaning, like, go to the punk guy. When in doubt, find the punks. And we just became friends. They were living at Texas West, and we'd see each other. We lived in the same shitty neighborhood, so you kind of see each other at the 7-Eleven level kind of thing. I got a job on Melrose, started working on Melrose at a trendy shoe shop, which was like your entree into the scene back then, because Melrose was very happening. They would come around. Pat would come around there. I met Pat there, smoking pot in the back of the shoe store with and the guy who owned that store managed LA Guns, Alan Jones. So those guys were around. You just sort of like get immersed in it. I'd come out with some buddies. Some went by the wayside and some stayed around. But through that, I met Alvin Gibbs, who started Broken Glass with me. And Alvin's in the UK subs, always has been. And he was the one to reach out to me about starting this band. I'd come out with this other guys, and we played some shows around, probably even open for Junkyard in this earlier version of whatever it was. And or maybe Pirates of Venus or something like that. And Alvin had seen us and said, "Oh, well, you're a good songwriter. Let's start a band," because that thing had fallen apart. So I started a band with Alvin, and then we got Mark Diamond, who's now in the Dwarfs, who was in New York Loose. I just met him. A buddy of mine gave him my phone. I need a guitar player. Call Mark Diamond. It was actually Tim P from Flies on Fire. Gave me Mark Diamond's number, and Dickie replaced Alvin. So we get going. Alvin had some notoriety, so we were able to get some good shows. Junkyard put us on shows like instantly. We were opening for Junkyard.
Always,
For the Nymphs, we were opening for Funhouse, we were opening for whoever, and Kill for Thrills was coming up then. I was friends with Todd, and David, the drummer, used to work at Flash Feet. We all worked at the same store. It was very small. Like, this is like, we're talking about 13, 14 guys, all kind of just like playing. Junkyard was a little bit further ahead, but Brian wasn't in the band yet. Brian walked into Flash Feet, about to break up Dag Nasty. I said, "You should move up into Hollywood." He was down on the beach. He moved up. He ran into Chris at that 7-Eleven while he was out crashing, trying to find his way. I got him a job at Flash Feet, and he ran to Chris at that 7-Eleven right when when we're needing a new guitar player. That's how that happened. It was just he'd happened to be in Hollywood hanging with me, and that's how all that happened. They knew each other from the punk days. Brian gets in Junkyard, so it's even more interconnected. And so we're doing tons of shows with them. Junkyard was already making their first album, and they weren't playing much, and we got popular. We played with the Hangman all the time. In fact, the Hangman's the reason we kind of got popular. We were trying to get going, and they dropped off a bill, and we slid into their slot, and we played a headline slot at Scream Club, which at the time was like that major. And we went from being like, okay, to like selling out the Club Lingerie on our own on a Saturday night. That's how the scene was. Like, you get the right exposure, you got big. And we got on all those bills at Scream Club, where you're on with like Jane's and Burning Tree and Social Distortion and all that stuff. So we were doing all the right shows, and we got a record deal, as you did, and we made an album. Regime change at label. We were on Chrysalis, same time as Slaughter. They had just got, and they came out like a month before us and sold a bunch. We came out and didn't sell fuck all. So they dropped us. We were trolling around looking for a new record deal for a while. And that was one of the songs. I really thought that was like, well, this will save our ass. This fucking song. It's pretty good. Tried and true. We had it, and I'd written it. And I was like, well, this might get us a record deal again, I thought. And we were doing it in shows. And it's not like anyone asked me. I just came in one day and they were playing it. So I said, well, yeah, go for it. Do it. And David's like, what are the lyrics again? That kind of a thing, So, and then that sort of began the process on that third record where I was brought in to write because I was at loose ends. And the idea was, well, just come in and write. We need help. And so I wrote whatever's on of that whole time, all those songs. And then what came out on Old Habits Die Hard. I wrote a bunch on that. In fact, that line is a lyric from a song that I wrote on the record. It didn't make the actual thing, but that Old Habits Die Hard, like ex-girlfriends and favorite bars. Those things come up. I used to write lyrics with David all the time, and he still brings things out that he said, what is the one, and that song Hellbound on High Water, that's an old lyric that I had kicking around when we were just writing lyrics for the third album. And that line where he, walks in the bar and they don't play he likes to shake it to the crew. They don't play Bob Dylan here. That was one of mine that I'd said it once or twice, and he had jotted it down in the process of writing what was going to be that third album. So we were writing together a lot. Sometimes it'd be music, sometimes it'd be lyric. I'd just chip it with lyrics. Sometimes Brian and I. So I was involved in it then. I think there was even discussion of maybe like, well, maybe you come because you could sing background vocals and
right, yeah, there was
on keyboards, and we'll have acoustic or whatever. It was all
multi-purpose kind of thing.
Yeah, you'll be a utility guy. It was all just discussion at that point. But all those, I was around a lot because they were also recording songs that I wrote too. So I'd go to the studio and see how they were coming out. And Tried and True was one of those. And it was just there. And I was like, oh, this sounds pretty good. I mean, I think they probably thought this, I think there was a thought, Pat could probably say if true, like, okay, here's our ballad for the album.
Oh no, it was when we recorded Tried and True at Rick Parker's place. And you were down there, you were hanging out around with us in that backyard. We were like, and it was Holding On, which I think you had a part of.
Yeah.
Tried and True, Hard Times Atlanta. There was some other shit, but it was right at the tail end. It was like 1992, maybe 1993 or something like that. Yeah, because I think we got officially dropped in 93, 94, something weird like that. But when we were recording those songs, the quality of it also, we were in the studio every day because, well, we had nothing else to do. And that's, Geffen was paying for our tab. So when we did those sessions, the Tried and True sessions with Rick Parker that came out on the Tried and True EP or whatever, we were really on our game. And at that point, it was like, yeah, Tried and True. This is Simple Man on steroids. This is gonna do it for us. Yeah. Little did we know that our third record would basically what Geffen said with us on our third record is like, we'll put it out, totally put it out, but we're not going to promote anything. We're not going to do anything. Basically, you're getting an album and that's it. Yeah. And it's like no tour support, no nothing. It's like, no, it's like, well, okay. And at that point, then, we knew the writing was on the wall, but Tried and True, that was a big song.
I'm glad the song has had some kind of afterlife. I've written a lot of songs, so it's nice, but that one seems to have connected. I see the odd Tried and True tattoo and stuff like that. And a lot of people, it's my favorite Junkyard song. And most people don't know I wrote it, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's part of the reason I wanted to bring it up today is to give you credit where credit is due. But more importantly, I remember hearing it like on a burned copy of a CD, and I was like, "Oh my God, this song is a hit, man!" And just like you're saying, Pat, it's like this would have been the follow up to Simple Man had the world had a chance to hear it, So I'm glad it finally got a proper release on the Old Habits Die Hard record. Yeah,
I think that's what the Old Habits Die Hard thing was. Like, let's put a bow on this. Like, it's all floating about, and there was, can we come to a consensus about what's the quality here? And I felt some ownership because I had written so much of it too, so I had my feelings about it. I guess it's the first Junkyard record I was officially involved in, even though it never came out as a real record. But so we kind of, there it is. And so we culled down all the stuff that was supposed to be for the third album. There's always things that are going to get left out just to make it on one piece of vinyl. But we weren't going to do some gatefold double album shit. So it was like, and our feeling was there was probably 11 or 12. There might have been good songs that just weren't executed right. And you can't go put that genie back in the bottle. So there's some of that too. It was like, why didn't you put this on? Like, there's the idea of that is good, but it's not executed right. And so you have to make some decisions that are sometimes hard. And that's representing that album a little bit. Like the song, you know, the song "Old Habits Die Hard" didn't make it. It's a good song. It's just it was a little.
Yeah.
It just didn't. The version wasn't great, or I don't know what the fuck it was. You know what I mean? So
it didn't hold. It didn't hold up.
Didn't hold up
the
as
other
well.
stuff.
Yeah.
Also,
some people love it.
Make,
Some people, it's the best song on there, but you're always going to get that. So
yeah,
I think what was it? It was a 5 of us plus our label, and everybody. All right, submit your your top 11 or 12 songs or whatever. And I think all of our songs were exactly the same.
Yeah,
so it was like, and that song was always left off, but then the lyric was always so classic. It's like, well, this makes sense, you know, to call it that.
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone listening hasn't picked up Old Habits Die Hard, pick it up. It was intended to be the 3rd Junkyard record, and even though it came out years and years and years later, it does sound like the 3rd Junkyard record. It sounds like it could have come right after. So if you're a fan of the first 2, you owe it to yourself to get that 3rd one, even though it came out many years later.